Hello people, today I'm just going to show you how I use Lightroom and Photoshop together to create this landscape photograph. Hi guys, if you follow my personal work on Facebook, I told you I was going to show you how I created this landscape photograph. Anyone interested in seeing my personal work, my personal photography work, you can find me on Facebook at Mark Newton Art Photography. Here's the shot here. This was shot in Scotland on Loch Lomond. The one on the left is a straight shot from the camera. The one on the right is the final image. This picture, the final picture, was a long exposure taken with a 10-stop ND filter, and I took 3 exposures, one at the correct exposure, one taken at 1 stop under and one taken at 1 stop over. This was because I wanted to experiment with some HDR effects back in Lightroom. As you can see, there is not much blue in the water, so I needed a bit of HDR in to really bring that blue out. You can also see from the picture on the left that there's these colourful buoys, which I also wanted to get rid of. I mean, it's actually amazing what you can actually do with photography. This is why I love it. So I'm going to briefly run through how I created it. It takes around 40 minutes to an hour to process an image like this properly, so I'm going to be zooming through some areas and just cutting to the best bits for you. Here we go. So here we are in Lightroom. I've already imported the pictures that we need. This is the straight file. This picture here is the correct exposure. That one is 1 stop over, and that one is 1 stop under. So firstly, what you want to do is hold down the control key or the command key if you're on a Mac and select all 3 of your exposures. Then you right click on them exposures, you go to photo merge and you go to HDR. Now it brings up this preview window here, and let's just go through a few things. Auto align I don't need to do because they were on a tripod. All shots were on a tripod and it's all very still, so that was quite good. Auto tone lets the computer judge and change things the way it thinks. I don't like that to happen. I want to take full control, so I always leave that ticked off. Then we go into the deghosting here. Now if you've got clouds moving in long exposures like this, you can't really use deghosting. It does this. If I click on low, and we'll show you what happens. As you can see, it's done some weird stuff in the sky there, look. And we don't want that. So deghosting on moving clouds is not really a good thing, so I'm going to click none. You would only use deghosting if you've got moving people or maybe cars or something like that, then the deghosting works really well, but apart from that I leave it off. You click merge once you've done all that and it will merge itself into a high dynamic range image. Now I've already done that, so I'm just going to click the X at the top. Once it's merged, it will put it down the end here of your image thumbnails. Just look at this, this here, and you can see the names changing, and here it is here. It's 2310 HDR. So it's mixed all of these 3 images here, and it's just took the name of the last one, 2310, and then added the HDR bit at the end so that you know that it's your HDR version. Okay, now let's go into the develop module at the top here. So I have already made all of these adjustments to this picture, and I'm going to go through them with you now. But if I just go before and after, that's the original HDR, and this is the processed HDR. Now you can see a hell of a difference there, and the reason you can see that is because it's a HDR image. There is so much information in it that you can pull it out however you want to within reason. For instance, if you've got a slight bit of blue, like I said earlier, in the water, you can really bring that out in your HDR image. Okay, so let's go through the way I adjusted this. So first though, you go into the basic settings here, and this is where the main stuff happens. I increased the exposure slightly there, and I took the highlights right down and I pulled the shadows right up. I took away a bit of whites and I added some blacks. So let's just have a look at that without any of them settings. So as you can see, it doesn't look as great. So if I pull down the highlights, what you can see is the middle part of the image balancing out much better. I pull up the shadows here and you can see that the bottom of the image is balancing a lot better there. Put in some blacks, but if you put in some blacks, it really helps with the contrast. And I also took a few whites out because I thought it was too bright in the middle like that. Under here, I didn't touch the clarity, but I did increase the vibrance and the saturation. So if I take the vibrance down and the saturation down like that, and you can see the difference. You just add a little bit of saturation, a little bit of vibrance, and look at that difference already. Okay, then we go back, then we go down to a tone curve here. I've got a whole tutorial on using curves on the YouTube channel. It's using curves in Photoshop, but it's the same principle in Lightroom and Photoshop. I'll put a link to it here if you want to learn about that. If I toggle off, that's without a tone curve and that's with a tone curve. It's really advisable to always put a slight S curve into your image. It just really enhances the contrast. Then if we go a bit further down, we go under the color tab, and here you can select certain colors that you want to adapt. Now in this image, I just adapted the blue saturation and the green saturation. The blue saturation was for the sky and the water, and I'll just show you here. If I take that out, that's without saturation, and that's with saturation there like that. And then the greens, which is this one here, was for these areas down here. So if you can add more or you can take them out, and it's just a slight adjustment. You can just see it there, can't you? Just a slight adjustment there, just to enhance these greens in the moss. We go down a little bit further and we've got detail. Now I only sharpened this slightly because it was already a sharp image. It was taken in with a small aperture over a long period of time, so it was a sharp image as it was. 80% at radius 1.2. So let's zoom into an area so we can see that. Okay, I'll toggle off here. We're using this this toggle here. That's without sharpening, and that's with sharpening. That's without sharpening, and that's with. And you can see that it does just make a little difference. It crisps it up, which is what you want. And that is all I added in Lightroom. So let's look at the before and after again. That's the original HDR, and that is the adjusted HDR. Now what I want to do, let's go back to full screen. Now what I want to do is take away these boys, and I want it to look all nice and smooth. And for that, you can't do that in Lightroom. We're going to need to do that in Photoshop because it's much finer detail to adjust. Sorry. So what you do is you go to your HDR edit, which is this one here. You right click on that HDR edit and you go edit in Photoshop. Click that and it will open up in Photoshop. And there it is there. I'm going to press Control and 0 to full screen it. And it's these areas that I want to get rid of. Now the easiest way to do that is with the patch tool. And the patch tool is over here in your toolbox. Now, it's good to use a patch tool in areas where it's very slick and smooth. So like that area there, you can just patch it in with this area here and it'll work really well. If you try to do it with a mountain or a tree, it's not going to work that great. But for this task, I think it's going to work really well. So we're going to use a mixture of the patch tool and the clone stamp tool, which I'll come to in a second. I'm only going to do a couple for you. I'm not going to go through the whole lot. So I'm going to press Control and the plus key and zoom right in on the area that I want. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Okay, now when you're using the patch tool, this is really important. At the top here, make sure you select content aware. Otherwise, it's not going to work properly. And we add it to a new layer so that it's non-destructive. So down the bottom here, you click new layer, and then you circle or go around, don't forget the shadow bit, go around the area that you want to remove, click and hold, move along to an area that's very similar like that, go down a bit because if you see that it was just getting that top bit in, so I'm going to go down a little bit, release, and it's patched it in absolutely beautifully. Press Control and D or Command and D to deselect, and it's just like magic, isn't it? Okay, now you can do that with all of these if you want to, and then when it becomes a little bit difficult, let's see if I can find one. When it becomes a little bit difficult, it's something like that there, where you've got the horizon line going right through it, and there you're going to need a mixture of the patch tool and the clone stamp tool. So let's just show you that. Control and plus sign, let's go right in. Yeah, I'm going to go right in like that so we can look at this, we can literally see the pixels here. The first thing I want to do is get rid of this red thing. This is a red boy as well, so I'm just going to go like that, and I'm just going to get rid of that with the normal patch tool, and that's fine. Control and D, and that's fine. Now it's this bit here that's going to cause a little bit of issue. This time I'm going to create the selection with the polygonal lasso tool, and you do that because you can get a nice straight line, and I can deal with both areas at once. So I'm going to click on the horizon, or not the horizon, where the land it hits the water there. Then I'm going to click there, then I'm going to click there, I'm going to go all the way around like that. Okay, now I've created my own selection. Then I can select the patch tool again, and I can move it along, and it's just going to take the water section. Do you see that like that? Now it does leave a little bit left there. That's to do with the patch tool and the feathering and things like that. We'll come to that another time, but there's an easy way to get around that, and that is using the clone stamp tool here. So I can use the clone stamp tool. Let's use the bracket keys to make it smaller. Let's right click. I want it nice and soft like that. Yeah, that's fine. Press the enter key. Let's clone an area, yeah, like about there. Hold down the Alt key and click where you want it to be. The button is there, and then just paint into that area. Now it's not going to affect the trees there because I'm using a selection, and that's great. Look at that, that's really good. I'm just going to show you now to do the yellow bit, the top bit, and let's go Control D. First of all, let's have a look before and after. Not bad at all, not bad at all. I might have to sort this, there's a little bit of area there that I might sort out in a minute. I'm going to do a new layer this time, and back to the polygonal lasso tool, and let's go along the bottom there like that. Patch tool again, click and drag, and literally put another bit of tree in, just like that. Control and D, and there we go. We've took out that boy there very nicely. Press Control and minus to zoom out, and you can't see it, you won't notice it at all. Look, there it is, and there's the other one. Let's group these actually. Control and G, or Command and G, and look, you see that? It's just like magic. Now I'm going to do that with the rest of these and come back to you in a second, because you don't want to see that. Okay, now we are back, and I've took away all of the boys. I've grouped them into a folder here, and you can see, look, and there you go. That's with and that's without. And I just want to show you something else. That's how many layers I made, because you want to be as non-destructive as possible. So I just did you know, a few boys with that one, a few more with that one, and so on and so forth. You can go like that and it starts to come back, and then go like that and they all disappear again. You group them all and then they're all there in one group like that. Okay, so that's it. Now you've took all the boys out, you've adjusted the colours in Lightroom, and you've got a really nice looking landscape. Well, I think it is anyway. And then all you do is save it, and it puts it back into Lightroom for you. So you go File, you can just go File, Save, or you can go Save As and rename it, which is what I've done here. And then once you've done that, you can open Lightroom back up again, and there it is there, saved in Lightroom for you. And if you want to, you can make even further edits if you want to do that, but I really like it as it is. And that is pretty much it. Let's just go back to the original shot. That's a straight shot. That's just a normal exposure. Then you've got your one up, one stop above, and one stop below exposure. Then you go to HDR and you HDR it, and you make all of your adjustments that you need to in your adjustment boxes over here. Then you right click and you export it into Photoshop, and you get rid of the boys and anything else that you want to do. You save it again, it brings it back into Lightroom for you like this, and then you can export it and do whatever you want to it. And there you go, a beautiful landscape photograph created using Lightroom and Photoshop. I hope you liked this. If you did, click the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. If there's anything you want us to cover here at the School of Photography, put it in the comments below. It gives us really good ideas to make more tutorials. We'd also love for you to join our photography learning community on social media. So please make sure you follow us on your preferred site. Thanks for watching, and remember, learn more at the School of Photography.